Hi everyone, this presentation is on owner-perceived adverse reactions within 2 days of vaccination administration in dogs. My name's Rachel Kinsman and I am an employee of Dogs Trust, as are several of the co-authors. During this presentation, I will cover the following things. The data for this analysis comes from the research project Generation Pup. So I'll begin my presentation by telling you about that research project. I will then discuss why I chose this topic to investigate. I will then cover my study objectives and methods before moving on to my results, conclusions, and the further investigations. As I mentioned, the dogs included in this analysis were obtained from the research project Generation Pup. Generation Pup is a longitudinal study of canine behaviour, health and welfare. We would like to recruit 10,000 puppies and currently have just over 4,000. We recruit puppies under 16 weeks of age, any breed or crossbreed, and the owners must live in the UK or Republic of Ireland in order to take part. The aims of Generation Pup are to investigate incidences of health and behaviour problems and identify risk factors for health and behaviour outcomes. The findings will hopefully help inform prevention strategies designed to improve canine welfare. So what do we ask our participants to do? Owners are asked to register online, and if they don't have access to a computer, they can register for postal surveys instead. We then follow these dogs throughout their lives by asking their owners to complete surveys at set time points. The first year of a dog's life involves a number of developmental stages, so there are a higher number of surveys to complete up until 18 months of age, as you can see. After this time point, owners will be asked to complete surveys every 6 months. By asking owners to answer questions about their puppies at the exact age which the question refers to, we're hoping to get more accurate responses than if we'd asked owners to recall this information when their dogs were older. Owners can also take part in optional extras, such as allowing us access to their dog's clinical vet records, asking their vet to complete simple vet cards specifically designed for Generation Pup, or by sending us non-invasive biological samples from their dog. Data for this presentation comes from responses to the 16-week survey. So why did I decide to look at this topic? Well, I'm sure you're aware it's widely advised that dogs should be vaccinated to protect them from infectious diseases. For example, the Vaccination Guidelines Group, the VGG, of the World Small Animal Veterinary Association state that they strongly recommend that wherever possible, all dogs and cats receive the benefit of vaccination. This not only protects the individual animal, but provides optimum herd immunity that minimises the likelihood of infectious disease outbreaks. Canine vaccines are considered safe by the VGG, and adverse reactions are reported as very low. One notable large-scale peer-reviewed study, which examined reactions that occurred within 3 days of vaccination in 1.2 million dogs, reported the prevalence of any type of documented reaction as 38.2 dogs per 10,000 vaccinated. This study was looking at reactions which were reported to veterinary practices, and the authors emphasised that the majority of these reactions were mild and of no clinical consequence. The success of vaccination programs over the past 5 decades has had a major impact on improving the quality of life for small companion animals and in controlling disease. However, some owners choose not to vaccinate their dogs. Other owners may not prioritise vaccinations and may forget or let their dog's boosters lapse. The practice of vaccination receives a lot of media exposure, and public attention often focuses on rare incidences of adverse reactions following vaccinations. So I thought it would be interesting to explore owner-perceived adverse reactions to vaccinations, and then further down the line in the Generation Pup study, explore whether these perceived adverse reactions are associated with whether the owner continues to vaccinate their dog. So this study had one objective, which was to investigate owner-perceived adverse reactions in the 2 days following vaccine administration, as reported by owners in their puppy's 16-week survey. Now on to the methods. Although Generation Pup is an ongoing longitudinal study and we're still very much recruiting puppies and collecting data, the data for this specific piece of analysis were collected from surveys completed between May 2016 and September 2019. The analysis, as I've said, uses data from the 16-week survey, which is issued to the owners when their dogs reach that age. Puppies that have been vaccinated within the last 24 hours were excluded from the analysis, as 2 days had not passed following their vaccination. Owners were asked to select from a predefined list, which you can see on the slide, any adverse reactions that they'd observed in the 2 days following vaccine administration. Also, a free text box was available for other responses. Descriptive statistics were used to summarise the prevalence and type of adverse reactions reported. On to the results now. In the 16-week survey, 94.5% of owners reported their puppy had been vaccinated since acquisition. Excluding 14 puppies who had been vaccinated within the last 24 hours and 42 puppies with missing data related to the adverse reactions question, 21% of owners reported one or more adverse reactions to have occurred within 2 days following vaccination. This 21% equates to 356 puppies. Of the 21% of owners who reported an adverse reaction in their dog, most owners, 62.1%, reported one reaction, 29.5% reported 2 reactions, and 8.4% reported 3 or more reactions. And it's unknown how many of these reactions were reported to the owner's veterinary practice. So let's have a look at the most commonly reported reactions selected from the predefined list. By far the most common was seemed lethargic or off colour, with 47.2% of owners selecting this reaction. Vomiting or diarrhoea, developing a lump or swelling on the vaccination site, and was off his or her food were the next 3 most commonly selected reactions. The most commonly reported reaction in the free text box was sleepiness, and also 8 owners reported that their dog's nose was affected, and by this I mean they reported sniffling or sneezing following the vaccination. In conclusion, this study suggests that owners potentially perceived adverse reactions at a higher rate than those reported in veterinary surveillance schemes. However, there are a few things that I think we should consider. Firstly, we can't determine if the reaction the owner reported was a consequence or not of the vaccination. Secondly, owners may have been on the lookout for adverse reactions following the vaccination. They may have reported a reaction to us, but it's unknown if the owner deemed the reaction severe enough to report it to their veterinary practice. Finally, at 16 weeks of age, when some puppies will have only recently joined the household, how familiar were the puppy owners with their dog's normal behaviour in order to be able to report adverse reactions which related to the puppy's behaviour? And finally, future work within Generation Pup will investigate if owner-perceived adverse reactions following vaccination impacts on whether owners subsequently decide to vaccinate. That wraps up my presentation. I would like to just make the following acknowledgements. I'd like to thank the Dogs Trust Canine Welfare Grant Committee for initially funding Generation Pup, and I'd like to thank Dogs Trust for continuing to support the project. Obviously, a huge thanks goes to our amazing Generation Pup participants.